What is your default thought? When you are bored, what is the first thing you tend to fantasize about? Sometimes when I'm bored I'll Google bars and restaurants in other countries, look at their menus, and try to decide what I would get if I was there. I find it enjoyable and relaxing, and who knows, maybe one day I'll actually be able to eat at one of these places. Sometimes when I'm bored I use Street View in another country out of curiosity about how things look. You need to check out geoguess.com. My future? Like my little 10-year plan. Also I fantasize about people talking behind my back. Saying nice things usually. Sometimes saying not so nice things, but rarely. Sex. Quite a lot. Imagine some sex I'd like to have. Or remember some sex I have had. Think about how nice it was. Get a little high from the thought. Look at Mr. Attractive over here who had sex. Look at Mr. Attractive over here who's had multiple sexes. Fee. Greater than open Reddit, close Reddit, open Reddit. Slow down, buddy. We're getting too real over here. Dungeons and Dragons. I DM a weekly game for my friends that's been going on for over 2 years now, and whenever I space out, my mind always goes to D&D first, getting my cat to like me. I write songs in my head. Unfortunately, I can't play any instruments, so I have all these lyrics and melodies and nothing I can do with them. Perhaps you could ask a friend or commission someone to help you with that. I'm sure something great could come out of it. I'm poor and don't interact with anyone in real life. I was in a band for years, but I was only the singer. I know how to construct a song, just can't play anything. Dragons. Username checks out. These usernames give me a sudden urge to PM somebody. Existential dread. Like what is the meaning of life type shit. I wondered about it all when I was just starting high school, depressed. Now I'm going into G12, not depressed, and stopped thinking about it all too much and just started fantasizing about what my life could be when I grow up and get a real job and stuff. I do think about death, what comes after, all the time, and think I won't be sad when it comes the time to go, because I'll find out, I hope. I've set many goals for what I want to in my life. I usually think about that now rather than the meaning of life. I just accept it because of how mind-boggling it is to think that anything is here at all. Thank you for posting this. I know you probably don't care, but I needed this. Greater than fantasize, that's a funny way to spell worry. Usually 330 milliliters, but you can also find it in cans 335 milliliters. I don't get it, edit. I just got it, fantasize, take my upvote, but you forgot 2 liters bottles. This one Harry Potter fanfiction I've been writing in my head for the last 5 years but have never actually put on paper. I think of something embarrassing I did in the past and then make up a song about how stupid I am. I am a fucking idiot. I really am. I went to get the milk out and instead I'm holding ham. The ham was disappointing, the milk was far past due, and now I sit in silence and drink warm Mountain Dew. What if I had magic? Oh yeah, it's the Ekai time, being a musician. It's never too late. Greater than it's never too late, 3 days grace, fans scream in the distance. Joke ideas, but I usually overthink. If people will laugh I just get sad and start thinking I'm not funny. I don't know if this counts, but I always have music playing in my head. Edit, since so many people are commenting, I'm going to post what I've had in my head for weeks now. https://soundcloud.com/midnight resistance remix/future perfect trip midnight resistance remix. My head is basically Spotify, without the ads. So, Spotify Premium. I've always wanted to make a video game. I'll often have ideas, and when I'm bored I think about features or characters or gameplay modes for whatever terrible game idea I have at the time. Being the main character in my own world I've made up in my head. It sounds dumb, but when people fail me and everything is going wrong I imagine myself there and completing goals I always dreamed of. It keeps me striving for a better version of myself. I revisit how many things I've done wrong until I feel emotionally numb enough to keep going without breaking down. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not doing anything. Book characters and fictional worlds I wish I could live in. Same. I rewrite storylines in my head with me in them sometimes, and then I have ethical conflicts about whether or not I should interfere and change the story, or if that would make everything worse. Like, what happens if you save Black Widow? Then it turns into a nightmare what if scenario where it's actually a TV show, and everyone is just acting, except me who is acting like an idiot and thinks it's all real. And even though I would rather think about the original fantasy, I can't help exploring the embarrassing TV version because of don't think of a pink elephant logic. Edit, my first silver. Tie anonymous Redditor. I will include you in my silly daydreams. When all hope was gone, there came a hero. Nobody knew where they came from, or who they were, because they were anonymous. Either fapping or flying. What a sincere man you are. Finding my soulmate. Edit, is there a sub for soulmates? I used to daydream about this. I had met a boy when I was in kindergarten and was convinced he was my soulmate, but he had moved away and I knew his first name, but not his last name. So every day I'd dream up scenarios of how I'd meet him. Would he be in my coffee shop, and we'd look up and just know? Or will I find him on my trip to Japan, as he moved to Japan IRL cause his dad was in the military? I didn't realize how much this was my default. How this maybe today will be the day got me out of my shell, out of my house. I'm not even making this up, but a few years ago /r/AskReddit asked who is your white whale. I told my story. A Redditor told me he was a pie and if I gave him a little more information he'd find him for me. He did. In 25 minutes. And it crushed my soul. My soulmate was still good looking. He was still kind. And he was married and absolutely devoted to his autistic child. Reality came crashing down. And I fell into a depression realizing he wasn't the one for me. That I wouldn't have a magical moment bumping into him and having a wonderful life together. I stopped having good/realistic daydreams after that. I stopped dreaming about love. While I don't feel depressed in everything else, I do realize that I've stopped being as adventurous or leaving my house as much. A part of me just wonders what's the point, I guess. This really hit me. It's sad how we feel that we are meant for someone so much, but find out the opposite. I think many people go through this in finding themselves. Eating. Same. No disorder or anything, I just eat when I'm bored. I'm just suddenly hungry because I'm bored. Okay. I'm dreaming of a story from my own world I've created long ago when I was a child. I'm dreaming of a story and the plot, the characters. And I'm not enough self-confident to write down that shit and publish it. Updated. Guys, thank you so much for that support. It's really great to see so much people helping you to become stronger. I will try it on Medium though, first with small stories and get the feedback. No self-ads obviously. Thank you. Yeah, same. I mean, the details of the word continue to shift. It's not a single coherent story, but there's a constantly changing world I imagine, with characters and a rough plot and etc. Usually having various superpowers, and coming up with little scenarios in my head. Like I'm a bystander in a bank robbery, but little do these guys know, I can manipulate gravity. Stick out my hands and the robbers just collapse to slop on the floor, crushed under their own weight as I multiply gravity by 15,000 times right where they're standing. Or another fun daydream, I wake up and I'm a kid again, but with all the memories and knowledge I've gained throughout my adult life. Someone's been playing a little too much Sigma lately. It's time for a gravitic flux. Mostly boobs, I guess. We are simple men. I am no man, but I very much agree that boobs are good to think about. How would someone from 300 years ago react to an iPhone? I was just talking about this with my mom. Like how Abraham Lincoln would react to how the US is now, or how someone would react to a rocket going to space. Abe Lincoln would not be impressed. Winning the lottery. and deciding with whom I will share it, and whom I will not. And I'm guessing you/have no clue whatsoever? I talk to myself edit, that's funny because now everyone is talking to everyone about talking to yourself. I have arguments with someone else, where my mind tries to be that someone else and argue as best as possible. It's quite effective. I always lose the argument against myself. The bastard is clever, always knows what I'll say before I say it. I like to imagine alternate storylines for my favorite books or movies. The plot depends on my mood, like if I'm sad, I'll think up depressing stories that have happy endings. When I'm lonely, I'll think about a character that is also lonely, but imagine how people around them notice and support them. I'm too embarrassed about this habit to talk about it, but I was very excited when I found out about fanfiction and realize other people do this too. I hate writing, so I keep my thoughts to myself though. I have a whole fake life with its own plot that I just add scenarios to. Me too. I'm mentally dating someone that doesn't know I exist. Actually, he doesn't exist either. I just make up the perfect scenarios and I always say or do the perfect thing, so very far from reality. Yes. I thought I was the only one. And you have a bunch of made-up friends too with whole backstories and emotions that you can have full-blown arguments with.